Hello? Hello, hello?
Oh, it's Vibe.
What up,
What's
man?
going on?
I'm just,
Oh man,
I'm
I
chilling.
miss you.
You missed me.
I'm bro. Yeah, man. Like I had family stop by. I was like, oh, I really need to do this, but the family had to come first, man.
The
But
fuck, dude?
I,
I can't believe you. I thought I was your family.
you know what? You're my internet fam. How about this?
Okay.
Oh man, yeah, man. Thank you so much for taking time out, though, man. You're an awesome boss, man. I know it. Like when you were talking about coaching before you agreed to, do all this stuff. That it's the mix-up schedules that really bothered you. So, for the first time ever of me getting coaching from you, it won't be the last. I mixed up your schedule just a little bit, so I would just
It's
want to
all good.
apologize a bit.
No, no, it's all good. The only, I already, like, before I did it, I did something I was comfortable with, and that
Right.
was not coaching at the end of the day. Like, because at the end of the day, a lot of times I'll play something else. Like, I'll go play Warcraft 3 or something else. But so I don't want to do coaching to replace that. But I'm totally down to coach someone. This is also why I limit only to one coaching lesson a day as well, because I don't want to have like, all right, guys, it's Wednesday and I'm streaming today, but we're doing 4 coaching lessons in a row. You know, I like to
Right.
limit it to one a day, so I still get the majority of my normal content, but then one coaching lesson mixed in is totally fine. So,
Totally makes sense.
yeah,
So I did get promoted to Diamond One. Uh,
nice.
I have been able to maintain like 4300 MMR, 4200 MMR, and I've been improving a lot. I've actually uh 2 games after we had left, I actually played against the Protoss player who did the who cannon rushed me,
Yeah,
and I won. And
nice,
and
man.
there were, so that was exciting. I liked it. I actually did your build. It worked. It was fantastic, and and yeah, that I was happy with that. I was really happy with that. But today, I think we were going to focus more on the Terran side of things, and then next time we'll go for ZvZ.
Okay,
You cool with that?
yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So I already have a replay. Can you pass me Leaf?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so what kind of stuff, if you had to generalize it, do you want to look at for ZVT? Just like general builds, or
Okay, here's some of the things that I noticed that you do consistently, watching you for as long as I do, that I want to learn how to do. All right. I want to learn how is it that you split your attention uh so well when it comes to you playing StarCraft 2. And more specifically, just how is it that you're able to switch screens like every 4 to 5 seconds? You're always paying attention to something different, and like just getting into that motion of moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing, not getting tunnel vision as much as I may suffer from, along with like a lot of other people, trying to trying to be more self-expressive in the games that I play, and not get too locked into one specific task. And I guess the other thing is just refining the timings of my upgrades so that I don't feel like I'm consistently behind to a certain degree.
yeah, okay. I'd say the to answer your first one really simply is once you get comfortable enough with the build, it no longer becomes an issue of like always being like I gotta paying attention. I gotta be paying attention. What am I doing? What's going on next? What I gotta line it up. It's kind of just like autopilot mode if you've done it so many times, to where you don't even have to think about it. You'll just do it because it's like it could be a fucking zombie and re-execute what you've already done like 100 times. That kind of a situation. So if you just
Right.
hammer down a build like that, that's how it'll. Doing things like multitasking will become easier when the build requires you not to think at all. You don't hesitate in any way. You just do it. And what was the second one again? The second question you had?
Basically, how do I get my upgrades to synchronize in a way where I feel like I'm comfortable going up against heavy bio pressure while
Okay.
also maintaining clean?
You just need
Like,
to balance gas income. That's all you got to do. But gas income to your output of like your Zerglings. If you're gonna go for a Zergling based style, and a lot of times
right.
what that means is you want to go very light on the gas. Like if you're rocking 3 base, 6 gases, you're gonna have way too much gas, unless you're gonna be going for like mutas. But if you were going mutas, you wouldn't rush those all six gases either, anyways, because rushing like really fast mutas is kind of weak in the current meta because the way a lot of Terrans play is they go really heavy marine medevac stim pack fast, and if you rush muta, you're gonna get shit on really early most of the time. It's really hard to make muta work. But so basically, the best
unless you're making 50 of them, of course. Which I saw that game before.
Yeah, right.
That was a good muta switch, by the way.
Yeah. The best thing I can say is just get a solid build early on. We'll work on that today. And this build, it can transition into a lot of things. You can transition into really fast upgraded lings, with just like, heavy Zergling, unit, like that, just heavy amounts of Zerglings. You could go for a slower upgrade style, but instead the trade-off would be you could get like a lot more queens. Your creep spread could be insane, and you would just have a lot of anti-air, maybe 10 queens. And just more Zergling, because you wouldn't be investing in the gas so hard. You'd be like pure mineral, pretty much. And another way, that style, that second one I just explained, it actually transitions well either into just upgraded lings into like ultras or something like that, or it also goes well into transitioning into layer tech Roach Ravager. It's actually fucking really good Roach Ravager as well, if you prefer something like that.
So let me ask you a question. I think the first question would be, do you feel more comfortable with Roach Ravager than you do with Ling Bane in its current
No, I think Ling Bane's. Me personally, I like Ling Bane most out of everything. Roach Ravager, it works. It can be very good, but the one thing that happens a lot when you go Roach Ravager is your Terran opponent will start going medevac siege tank really heavy, and it turns the game into a situation where you have to land fungals and then corrosive vials behind it and eliminate siege tanks, or else you're going to lose. But whereas with like Zergling Baneling, that kind of comes down to more about your macro and like how much you have before the fight starts and how well your creep spread is. And then just like setting up a flank. That's pretty much it. Or maybe doing like run bys and trying to slow your opponent down with like bits and pieces of your army. Trying to kill workers. So far this game, your Overlord died. One of the best things you can do on like this map specifically is always send your Overlord to the high ground right below the Terran's main, and it's the same exact high ground if you're reverse spawn locations. It's the high ground.
Can you ping it for me?
I just did. You can't see it. I don't think you can see my ping.
Okay,
I'm pinging right
there
now.
it is.
Oh, you see it? Okay.
I had it on everyone's on my screen.
Yeah, it's just right above or below the natural, depending on spawn location. It's like a Tetris zigzag block. That shape of ground is perfect because you can skirt around it, and you can see the main if there is a command center there, or a natural basically, and then you can just leave your Overlord up there, and you'll see a bunch of movement, or like the wall in, what army composition he's doing at the front, all this kind of stuff. Like if your Overlord was still there, you would see he's got 4 racks, a bunker, and a 3rd command center. And if I saw that 3rd command center, I would tell you like right now you should be taking a 4th base, and like saturating your 3rd. You should be being greedy when you see that kind of stuff. This game specifically, your gas is already really high. Your build, honestly, I'll just say right now, is inefficient. If you want to be mining gas beyond Zergling speed, it needs to be for a purpose. And I'm going to pause it really fast. The purpose of mining gas beyond Zergling speed early on in the game, but this is before you're saturated on your mineral lines. The only reason why you would do that is if you wanted to do one of 2 things. One would be you wanted to get Evo chambers early, and you wanted to start upgrades as soon as you could, so you'd have this upgrade window to either defend a timing he's going to do to you, or do a timing to him when your upgrades are done. So that's one reason why you would do it. The second reason why you would do it is if you wanted to, or there's 3 reasons. Okay, the second reason why you would want to do it is if you wanted to tech really fast. I don't really recommend teching really fast in ZvT right now in the current way people play. I think it's really weak. I think going for more hatchery-heavy styles is better, which is why I was saying there's only 2, because I feel like that one's kind of irrelevant with the current meta. The only reason why that one used to be good is when Terrans would be going for like 1-1-1 all the time, and then it would actually be kind of nice to like get mutas quickly to deal with like bullshit banshees or random tanks everywhere, stuff like that, or like low marine count armies. But the way Terrans play mostly is they play very greedy and they go very marine heavy. So going very tech heavy Zerg really fast is really weak against that. So again, we're going back to what I was originally saying. The only reasons why you would mind gas beyond 100 is either to get upgrades really fast on Evo Chambers or to do like a timing with like Ling Bane or Roach Ravager, something really fast on hatchery tech. And if you're not doing either of those things right away, it's not worth it to continue mining gas. And like this game, you're going for a single Evo and you went for a Baneling Nest. But that Baneling Nest is really early in terms of like being safe, especially if you were to know that like this dude has 4 command centers now. You don't even need that Baneling Nest right now defensively at all. And a single Evo chamber, you might as well go for double against Terran because single Evo is actually really shitty against Terran.
Really?
Yeah. Single Evo is good against like Protoss, and it's not bad against Zerg. But against Terran, Marines are actually insanely strong units if you do not have Carapace against them. And they're also extremely strong if you do not have attack against them either. Because medevacs are healing them the whole time, so you need to burst them down. I mean, Banelings can kill them either way. But let's just say, hypothetically, you're going to try and kill Marines with Zerglings. If you try and kill Marines with Zerglings and you don't have weapon upgrades, you're going to never win that fight, because Marines are insane. Marines are one of the only units at Tier 1. They are the only Tier 1 unit that is a ranged unit that does not have overkill. Because their ranged shot connects immediately to their target. It doesn't have like a projectile. So Marines are insanely effective at killing shit like Zerglings really, really, really fast and not wasting damage. So if you need, not only do you need Carapace to withstand the damage they do longer, but you need damage to actually overpower through like medevac healing and also just the sheer numbers of Marines that you're going to be going up against. So I would. What's up?
So would you make the suggestion of going for choose opening style with the double Evo, like double upgrade around like 3 minutes 30 seconds, so that by the 5-minute drop you'll have +1/+1?
I can show you a build for that. It's really good.
I would love to see it.
Alright. Yeah. I'll give you like 2 builds. There's only 2 builds you gotta learn. We can keep it really simple. There's one build that's very macro heavy. It's late upgrades, but it's really, really Ling, Hatchery, Queen heavy. And this style can transition into Ling upgraded styles or like Roach Ravager styles. You can even add in mutas later or whatever. It's just, you'll have a lot of units early and a lot of bases early. The other style is you'll have slightly less units and slightly less bases than the one I just said. But instead, the trade-off would be you'll have really, really fast upgrades. And the style is guaranteed, like, you're going into Ling Bane. You're not going to Roach Ravager transition.
Understood.
And it'll just be much more efficient at your opening, because like right now with the current opening you did, it's almost 6 minutes in the game. You have no creep spread. You do have 2 bases, like 2.5 bases saturated, which is okay, but you have a bunch of gas. The reason why you don't have extra queens for creep spread and why you don't have 3 fully saturated mineral lines is because you've mined so much gas that is not really being utilized right now.
Right.
So we can definitely optimize that better for you. And also, you're like, if you were to do the build, like for instance, the double Evo build with just upgraded Lings, you could do the exact same timing you're doing right now, but your army would be 1-1, and you would probably have even more Lings than you do right now. Like
wow.
it would just be much more effective as an opener, because. Yeah, you'll see. It's just really strong. This seems pretty strong. The way the Terran's positioned is pretty insane. He was like out in front of his base. I do think honestly though, right there, I'm gonna pause it again and just give you a tip here for unit control. Did you have all your Lings and all your Banes in one control group right there?
Yes.
What I think you should do is you should always. Because you actually just had a moment, I'm going to back it up for a second and show you. There was a moment where you could have had an insanely good connection, but your Lings blocked, your Banelings. It's right here. Like, if your Banelings just walked forward, they have barely... Sorry. The Banelings are so close right now, they barely have to walk any... They are very much further to connect to, like, a bunch of Marines. How much Marines is this? That's 16 Marines. But your Zerglings get in the front, and you actually buy him time to get away. So what you should do, a tip you could do here, is put Zerglings and Banelings in like in like one group together. Like whatever group you're comfortable with. I don't know what number you use. Just put them both in one group, but then make a secondary group for only banelings. And what you should do,
Understood.
what I would recommend you do, and it's like if I saw a situation like this, I would like right click. You see where like the bottom of your Ling pack is right now, like right in the bottom middle of it. Like I kind of pinged it on the map. I would just probably like right click right there with your whole army, and then I would immediately switch to this Baneling only group, and I would immediately be right clicking like towards the Marines with just Banelings now. Even though your Zerglings are really close, the Zerglings would get out of the way of the Banelings, and your Banelings would get full connections to all the Marines. And then as soon as your Banelings get good connections, then you move in with your Zerglings, because in a situation like this, you're not going to be able to wrap around him because he's got a wall, so you can't like surround and blow him up. Instead, what's going to happen is I'll play it right now and you'll see it. Your Zerglings actually block your own damage from your Banelings, and you save a bunch of his Marines for longer, because he gets into different choke points because of the time it takes you to kill him. And you'll see right here, like your Zergling's going to fuck you over. You're only getting connections. The only time you were getting connections right there was when the Marines were killing the Zerglings in the front, and then the Banelings would then squeeze in to a dead Zergling's pathing, and then they would squeeze in and like detonate on the edge of the Marines. But yeah, like just a simple tip right there. I would so use two groups. Yeah, use two groups definitely. Just one group for Baneling only, and then one group for Baneling and Zergling. So you can easily move around with the Baneling Zergling group, but when you need to micro, just use Banelings to like walk into his shit.
Do you do that in ZvZ also,
Yeah.
or do you find yourself magic boxing more?
In ZvZ, I actually take Banelings out of the group entirely, and then ZvZ is the only matchup where I actually take Banelings out of the entire group and I make them only in their own group. Because I don't want, when I'm moving across the map, if another person, like we're going Ling Bane versus Ling Bane, I do not want my Zerglings to be on A move and then my Banelings to also be in the same group on A move for even a second. Because if my opponent throws like one Zergling backwards at my Banelings and they're on A move, they're just going to detonate immediately. I don't want that shit to happen, so I never put them in the group. As soon as I make Banelings, I immediately even remove the eggs from my Zergling control group and I rebind them into a new Baneling only group. So my Banelings are always on move command no matter what, unless they're just idle sitting there.
Understood.
So yeah, I mean, you got a nice detonation here on, or a nice, you killed his army. Looks like you're gonna win the game right now. Do you win the game right here?
No.
Okay. Actually, I just opened it up. There's like twice the amount of time. What are you doing in production? You're making drones? That's okay. Yeah, that's why you don't win the game right here. You're transitioning to drones, which is really good. That's totally fine. I like that you're. I liked that you were killing his workers, but as soon as if you were still like paying attention to the army here, if you're gonna transition to workers, rather than killing his army, I would totally recommend like trying to just go for more of his economy, because killing his army, if you think about it like this, if you know you're gonna be transitioning, you're not gonna just straight up all in him and kill him. The killing his initial army is always required to break into the mineral line, but once you do that, like staying on top of the production is kind of pointless because your army is going to slowly thin out because you're not reinforcing. So if you keep fighting his units, you're going to thin out and then you're eventually going to lose all your units, and then he's going to retain the rest of his economy. But instead, if you would have just like ran into the main with those like 20 or 18 Zerglings or whatever that you had a second ago, you could have avoided for maybe like an extra 5 seconds or something, or 6 seconds, the Marines and the Hellbat and the Medivacs that he has over here. And you could have ran into the main mineral line, and then you could have done some damage in the main and possibly killed like another 10 SCVs before he really fully cleans up your Zerglings. And if you look at the income tab, you're already crushing him, which is obviously really good. But you could be crushing him even more if you would have killed more SCVs, because it doesn't matter if he has like 5 Marines and 1 Hellbat. It's not going to do shit. Anyways, if he attacks you with that, you'll have plenty of stuff by then to defend it. But if the worker count was like, he had 10 less even than what he does right now, where it was like 21 to 62, you would just have a huge, like, enormous lead that would be almost impossible for him to come back.
Makes total sense.
So yeah, simply put, just don't waste time fighting the army if you're not planning on reinforcing. Kill economy then.
So I hate this map, by the way. I never play on it. It just confuses me. Like, and I'm told it's so Zerg favored, and I'm just like.
This map, the only reason why people say this map is Zerg favored is because Zerg can do aggressive builds, like for instance Merge Ravager, and you can keep the opponent really defensive while having a gold base, and then it's like you have just more in the mid game. But if your opponent doesn't get broken from like one of your first attacks, the advantages that everyone claims that Zerg has is totally irrelevant. It's all about just like containing your opponent with the gold. So like right there, you're against this army. There's no way you're ever going to beat it unless you have Banelings. With your current selection of buildings here, you have to have Banelings to fight Hellbat Marine, or you're totally dead. Hellbats just absorb Zerglings way too hard. Like the amount of damage that the Hellbats can basically two-shot Zerglings, and they do it not only, one at a time. They cleave Zerglings in 2 hits, and then you got Marines just finishing off everything else behind, which is insane. But also, if you think about it like this too, Hellbats are light. They are considered light units, so they take bonus damage from Banelings just like Marines do. And Banelings so Banelings are definitely a great choice to like clear out Hellbat Marine. Because also the other thing too is Hellbats cannot kite Banelings because they're too slow. And you make Banelings now, but this is
It's too late.
Yeah, the first wave of Zerglings we had should have been the Banelings. And definitely too, when you fight this army as well, if you're going to make Banelings to deal with it, try your best to not move your Banelings into his army on the outside. Try instead to move command towards the Marines. Like, literally move through the Hellbats. And you will have, some of the Banelings will die while doing that. And they will eliminate some of the Hellbats. But you should be moving immediately towards the clump of the Marines and trying to get rid of the Marines. Marines are definitely by far the most scary part of this army. Because if you have like Queens, for instance, Queens could actually deal with the Hellbats if there's no Marines pretty well. And also if there's only like 2 Hellbats, you could easily overpower that later on. But let's just say hypothetically, there's like 3 Hellbats in the front that are spread out, and you have like 10 Banelings. And all 10 Banelings blow up on the Hellbats, and now he's got like 20 Marines behind that. You're still probably going to lose that fight, because the Marines are still up.
Wow.
So Marines are definitely the target of choice to kill with the Banes. The amount of DPS Marines do is fucking insane. They definitely need to be killed. But like right now, you're actually 1-2 upgrades, and your opponent's 0-0. That's the only reason why you're winning these fights at all. Because there are so many medevacs here, you should be losing these fights if your opponent had equal upgrades.
Right.
But yeah, you have a good upgrade advantage, which is nice. I'm just looking at your gas right now. So I know a lot of shit's going on, and it was like, you're in crisis management, being like, oh shit, I'm being killed right now.
Pretty much.
But since you have a layer, I would say with this style, when you're going for like a link heavy style, as soon as you start the sorry, I didn't mean to say layer. When you have the hive, that's when you really want your gas to just like explode. You can go off of like 3 gases only up until you're at hive tech, and then once you're hive tech, you should take almost every gas you have available to you, because that will really allow you to go into like heavy Ultra, Broodlord, Corruptor, Infestor, Viper, anything like that, whatever you really feel like you need in the game. All that becomes available at hive tech, and that's when you'll need the gas then at that point to really like pump it out really hard. Yeah, this looks like this is not the end of the game.
This is pretty much GG here. So, it was GG a while back.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How, like Vipers, I don't make them, ever. Really. Ever.
It's okay. They're very situational. I can tell you when you need them, but keep going.
Yeah, like, I guess that'd be the question, like,
when do I make them?
should I... Yeah, when do I make them? Should I really add them to my composition? Should I experiment more with them?
You should only make them if your opponent has invested a large amount of supply into air to deal with your air. Like, if you're going to go, like, okay, let's just say this. Let's say you're going for Ultralisk, and your opponent is going for Marine Marauder. And then you're like, okay, what should I make to deal with this? Because my opponent's army is like, he has 10 medevacs, and then just like 100 supply of Marine Marauder. In that situation, I would never tell you to get Viper. I would never say, oh yeah, go Viper, because it would be terrible. The only thing you could really do is Parasitic Bomb the Medivacs, which is a huge waste of your gas. If you're killing Medivacs like that, you could do it in many other ways that are way more efficient. And also the other thing you could only do then is Blinding Cloud the Bio, and that's also really bad because Bio is one of the most mobile forms of range units in StarCraft. So if you throw a Blinding Cloud on Bio, that's like, you're going to snap your fingers and they're out of the Blinding Cloud already anyways. And if you're going to fungal Blinding Cloud them, it's kind of irrelevant because, you know, there's much better ways you could be spinning your gas rather than doing fungal Blinding Cloud, which is also insanely hard to set up. Instead, if you're going to try and fungal them, you might as well just fungal them and have ultras run in their face and cleave them. Something way easier to execute. So something like that, they would be totally irrelevant to make Viper. The only time I would make Viper is if, let's say, you were going for, like, Broodlords. And let's say you have, like, 10 Broodlords, okay? And your opponent is now going, like, Heavy Liberator or Heavy Viking or whatever, some shit that's going to be designed to try and control the air. Then, if you have, like, let's say, 4 Viper, okay? You don't even need to make, like, 10 or 20 Viper. You just need a little bit. Like, 4 Viper. Now, combined in with, like, let's say, 16 Corruptors. And your opponent has gone for, like, 10 Liberators and, like, 12 Vikings. If you just have a couple of Parasitic Bombs mixed into the big-ass AoE fight you're about to have, those Parasitic Bombs are going to destroy his army so hard. And you didn't invest, like, everything you had into it. All you invested was, like, a little bit of gas and a little bit of supply. So you just, like, sprinkled some Vipers into your mix because he went mass air. I never go mass Viper. I, like, never go... The most Vipers I ever go would be, like, let's say my opponent is going... It's like Protoss, for instance, and he's going mass Sky Toss, and he's got, like, nothing but Void Rays and Phoenix, okay? Like, some random stuff like that. Right. And I'm like, all right, well, you went mass Void Ray Phoenix. Now I'm gonna add in. This is like the extreme amount of Viper. I would add in like 8 Viper, because I would try to have like a good range of spread of my Parasitic Bombs on his army. But even then, 8 Vipers is not like an insane amount. That's still like a pretty, you know, small overall supply of your army.
Do you make Evo Chambers specific for the Viper to eat at, or do you just?
I usually just eat off of gas mines.
Understood.
A tip here, like a good number here, is if you consume a gas with 2 Vipers, the gas mine will live with like 10% of its health left. And because the Vipers have a duration of time where they just automatically end consuming, they won't like consume it forever until they're full. So if you just consume a gas 2 times with like 2 different Vipers, so like just 2 consumes basically on 1 gas mine, it won't die. And gas mines are one of the most cheap one of the most cheap buildings to replace. So if it does die to like some, you know, say the Protoss or some shit comes over and finishes it off and kills it, it's 25 minerals to rebuild it. It's not that big of a deal.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like consuming that also doesn't jeopardize your tech. It also doesn't jeopardize your hives or your hatcheries or anything like that. I fucking hate watching people consume their hatcheries. It's so bad. Like, cause like, you know, a lot of times someone will consume the shit out of their hatchery, especially if it's like an expansion. And the expansion will now have like 200 hit points left out of 1500. And if like 2 zealots walk by, they'll just kill it. And you're like, okay, that was kind of a bad idea to consume my hatchery. But yeah, consuming gases is great. And then if you don't have enough gases to do it, let's say you're actually going for like, you know, a constant Viper consuming, throwing down a couple extra Evo Chambers for that exact reason is actually a good idea. Because you could have like, you know, let's say 4 Evo Chambers in the middle of the map or something for like proxied consuming. Then that's totally fine.
So let's go into a game and let's both pretend that we're going up against a Terran. I'm going to do my Terran opener and you're going to do yours, and then we'll see.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
How good we are prepared for it at 5 minutes, and then stop and then take a look at the replay.
Yeah, that's actually awesome, dude. What a good idea. I like it. It's like a time trial.
Yeah, but you're leader.
Oh my god, I'm failing you. It's alright, we'll extend the coaching lesson by a minute for my slowness.
Alrighty then.
Alright. I'm not gonna take the gold. I'll just do a standard build.
Yeah, I don't like taking the gold either.
Alright, we'll just play super standard. I just picked this map. Alright, so yeah man, we'll see. We will see. I'm gonna do the just really quickly tell me what you would prefer me to do. The early upgrade style?
The double upgrade.
Okay,
I want
I'll do that.
to see that.
Right,
I want to see how prepared you are with double upgrades at 5 minutes.
All right.
I can just tell you right now, I'm going for the 17, 18, 17 build.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull off gas and get the extra queens going and stuff.
Yeah.
And then after a certain amount of time, like 30, 31, I get the third base, and then I start my evo soon after that. And then I want to start saturating my gas.
So there's only one deviation that could happen in my build, and it would be if there was a Reaper attacking me. My third may not always be able to be thrown down as early as it will be this game, but if that were the case, and let's say my third got delayed a little bit because it's a Reaper, because you do not get speed with this build very fast. If you get speed after upgrades, by the way. If there was a Reaper denying my third, what I would have to do then is I would have to have my first 2 queens go push the Reaper away to take a third. That's the only difference it would be.
You're not the first person who's told me to skip speed entirely for the double upgrades.
Yeah, it's just because of the current meta. Like if the Terran's gonna go for like a Reaper all in, you need speed. You need to start that shit as soon as you can, so you don't die. But if your Terran opponent's going for like the standard, I'm gonna go 1 max into an expand, into a factory, then a starport. I'm getting Stimpack, and I'm gonna do a 2 medevacs, 16 marine Stimpack timing. If they're doing that super standard, yeah, exactly. Like every Terran does that. And if they are doing that, you could totally have speed still before they hit you, even if you get speed after upgrades.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I do a lot in my games, like on when I stream and when I'm streaming. When I do this style. And the sweet spot, like the perfect time to throw down your double evo is you throw it down when you're at 170 gas, because if you're mining off of a single gas mine, if you're mining off of a single gas mine, you can mine 80 gas in the time it takes you to build an evo chamber. So if you think, well, what's 80 plus 170? It's 250, and 250 is exactly what you need to go 1-1 upgrades. So it's perfectly not wasting time on your drones, mining minerals, you're like building them too early, all that shit.
150 carapace, 100 attack.
Yep.
So, question: when mistakes are made, what are some of the first things that you try to do adjustment-wise? Like, say for instance, like you left drones on gas too long, so on and so forth. Like, how would you adjust?
As soon as I see that I've done something wrong, I'll just try to fix it, and I won't like overcompensate. Like, it depends what it is. It's kind of a hard question to answer.
Right.
But like, let's say I left my drones on my gas too long. As soon as I did that, I would probably just stop mining gas for a little while and go, well, shit. You know, I'll use this later when I need to, but for now I'm going to go back to what I was going to do before, which was like something more mineral efficient, and go from there. Let's just say I mined like a bonus 100 gas on accident because I'm like talking to my stream or some shit. I wouldn't just then go, well, it looks like I need to get burrow right away, or it looks like I need to get fucking overlord speed. I would just accept the fact that I fucked up and not really like make my build even super deviated to be like really weird. I would just probably, like I said, just accept it and then just move on with my build as a little bit of a mistake happened.
Right.
But again, there's some situations where I would deviate depending on like specifics. Like if here's one. If my opponent, let's say I'm playing against a Protoss, okay, and I scout that my opponent was going for a fucking like an immortal timing, and I'm like, and with it like a lot of charge lots. And let's say I didn't make a roach warren, and I was banking on having a roach warren, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have roaches. That sucks. I would probably then do something like make mass spines, that I wouldn't have made otherwise, because now I need something to replace what the roaches were supposed to be. Something like that. Alright, so I'm not gonna kill your overlord, I didn't mean to attack it.
Yeah.
We're gonna stop at 5 minutes, you said?
Yep.
Okay. What's your supply right now?
69 out of 82.
Nice. And you're not doing upgrades, right?
Yeah, I am.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, I got, but only one.
Because right now, okay, if we stopped it right here, my upgrades are all going to be done in about 5 seconds.
Wow. All right, let's stop.
Okay. We can go back and watch the replay.
What? Wow. Okay. So when you mean all your upgrades, you're talking speed +1/+1.
Yep.
All done at the same time.
Yep.
And I gotta see it, man.
All right. Oh shit! Wait, hold on. I think I did it by myself. Up one, up one. Okay, here we go. So with this build, you can do a lot of deviations. This is actually a good point to stop it at, because there's a lot of deviations that can happen right here. You can throw down a Baneling Nest and go for a Ling Bane timing with 1/1. You could go layer. You could take a 4th base. You could. That's probably basically the big ones. You could either go layer.
See, now that's so funny because I get so much criticism for taking a late Baneling Nest, but you say take the Baneling Nest like usually at the 5-minute mark, usually going into layer.
Well, you're like, as long as you're scouting your opponent. Like if my opponent's going for what looks like a 1 base all in,
right?
I'm not really going to do this build because this build's insanely the timing of it comes a little bit later. So I'm not going to just like never build anything that's going to keep me safe from dying to something. But if I scout my opponent with an Overlord and I see, okay, he's playing super standard, he's expanded, that's the big one. If he's expanded, then you know you're not going to be 1 base all in. With this super big timing, you don't need a Baneling Nest right away. Like, there's no reason to get one. It's just a waste of money otherwise.
I feel the exact same way. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. I feel like as time has gone on and Terrans have gotten better and they just snipe Banelings, it's just pointless to get the early
well,
Banelings.
It's not even just about like them having good micro and sniping your Banelings. It's just the fact that you don't really need a Baneling to kill. Like, let's say your opponent actually expanded and then decided, you know what, I'm gonna attack the Zerg, and he moves out with 6 Marines. You don't need Banelings to deal with like 6 Marines, or like 10 Marines even. You could easily kill them on speed or with speed on creep, with like 1 or 2 Queens, very easily win that fight. You only really need Banelings when the numbers start getting bigger and bigger.
You skip speed, man. Oh my god, you got balls. like I have never skipped speed. I think of it as heresy, but you're doing it right here, right now.
I do it a lot in my ladder games. You'll see me probably do it if you watch my stream after this. You'll probably see me do it like a few more times today against Terrans. I do it quite often.
Cats, like, it's so interesting. Cats does the exact same thing. He usually skips speed. Sometimes forgets to get speed all game. like, it's so funny when it happens, but it's like he's so good at holding without speed that it's not necessary. So, wow, dude, that is greedy as hell.
Yeah. So, like, right now, you have a couple queens. We're both pretty much... you're actually going to have a little bit more queens than me. My third was up slightly before yours, and my third is having some saturation on it before yours. You're having...
I usually never saturate the third at all prior to the 5-minute mark. Because I feel like there's too many drones.
Yeah, so the thing I was going off of, like, the build, this is, again, designed for, like, the 16 Marine 2 medevac standard bullshit that turns do. It doesn't honestly hit you until about, like, on smaller maps, it'll hit you right after 5 minutes, like maybe like 5:10, and on bigger maps, like maybe Frost or something, depending on where you spawn, it could hit you at like 5:20 or like 5:25. So you have time to squeeze out 1 round of drones. Doesn't have to be like 16, but you could squeeze that
7.
Yeah,
7 or 8.
And this is, by the way, this is with the double upgrade style. If I actually go no upgrades and I go queen heavy, I could get a fully saturated third before the timing hits.
Damn.
We could do the same thing again if you want with.
Let's do it. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want. Damn. I can't see. Now I know you're right because I've seen you do this often, where you'll saturate, not fully, but half saturate, just like you did there. So it's good to see some of the decision making that goes into that process But now you're saying you can get a full saturation in defense in less than in 5 minutes, pretty much.
Yep. You'll have probably around 8 queens, and you'll have maybe like for the initial drop, if it were to hit you right then, you would have
8 queens.
Yeah, you would have like 8 queens and like probably 16 lings for the initial drop, and then you would be making more lings as if you continue to really go for it. So again, this is going to be. You should save them too if you haven't already. Just save the last one as like the double carapace opening, or the double Evo opening, and this one's.
I will.
The
just like I did with the Protoss opening.
This one you would still get upgrades, but you won't do it until you hit layer. Like I would actually spend my gas on layer before upgrades, and I would also make a Baneling Nest when I started a layer too. So when I hit layer, I would be starting Baneling Speed and 1/1 together.
Oh, got it. That makes sense. Okay, got it.
It's because you'll just have more of, like, the other style is less Zergling, but better upgrades, and this style is more Lings, just no upgrades. For early on. You just have more bodies to throw at it.
I mean, I think this would be a tough question to ask, but what out of the two, which build order do you find to be more consistent?
I like them both. They're both really strong.
Like them both.
Yeah, I switch it up whenever I'm in the mood for it, really. The 1/1 style has more tech. I feel like it has better. Okay, this is the best way to say this. The 1/1 style has better all-in type tech, and or either just going straight to ultras. And this style I'm doing now, the more unit style, this one has more range of tech. Like, but no, it's like more macro range of tech. So like, with this one, if I wanted to go like Mutilating Bane, for instance, this would probably be my build that I would choose right now. But if I wanted to go for like a Lurker Nidus timing, something like that I'm sure you've probably seen me do it before, I would choose the 1/1 build instead because it's more all-in timing. It's more catered towards that because you have these sick fucking upgrade windows to hit with. Alright, so I'm going to be taking all my drones off gas when I get a speed upgrade going. Like right now, I am starting my third right now.
Oh my god.
It's really fast.
That is super fast. Well, what about but you said you go up to 8 queens in order to take it.
I'm still taking more queens.
So you float to 150 2 times?
Well, my first 2 queens will start like right away with each other. They'll be perfectly coordinated. Oh shit, my overlord. They'll be perfectly lined up together. But my next queens after that, 3rd and 4th, they're not going to be lined up perfectly because I don't have 300 on hand. It's just like as soon as I get the money after my throw the hatchery down, I just make the queen.
Understood.
And then it's the same thing again. I'm spending all my money on larva until my queens finish, and then I'm like throwing the next 150, 150 at my queens, and it comes really quickly because I have a lot of drones. I'm already saturating my 3rd right now. I'm already fully saturated on 2 bases, and now I'm making 3 queens at a time, with the 3rd being done at this point. And I'm not gonna make lings until about 420. YOLO swag, blaze it, bro.
What?
What?
Hold on.
So what? Okay, now I'm gonna start making lings. I'm already fully saturated on 3 bases. When these last runs I made, it just popped. I'll be fully saturated. I have decent creep spread, and I've already got 7 queens in my main army. And like I said, I'm already making lings, and this timing usually hits around 510 to 525. On this map, probably more like 510. because this map's like a straight shot down the map, and you're there. What's up?
I'm
Yo,
trying
what's
so
up,
hard. I'm trying so hard
Alright.
to like.
Do you wanna?
Yep.
What's
Stop
the
it.
replay now? Okay.
Yep. Like.
Damn, dude.
Oh my God! You got to 53. I don't like. I'm in slow motion in comparison. That is unreal.
But it's really easy. I mean, it's if you just see how to do it, you can recreate it.
Right.
But again, like I said, this one I prefer this build if I'm gonna go for more defensive macro with a wide range, and I prefer the double carapace build if I'm gonna do some type of a timing. Like a lot of times, even when I go for the double carapace or the double evo chamber build, and I want to go into ultras, a lot of times what the game will start with though is I'll start with a zergling timing early on, to then go into macro after that. It's more that build's all about timing, and this build's all about defensive macro. So I'll speed it up just slightly for the very beginning, just to get to like 20 spot.
I basically did the same thing with the +1. I just tried to get a little bit more of a half saturation going before I invested a lot into limits.
Yeah, it makes sense. With this build too, what I would do, like if we continued to play it out, you do need a lot of larva to make this build work properly. If you go really heavy economy like this, there's no way you're going to spend your money if you have like only one gas going and just mass zergling production.
So when you get your 4th, you get a macro hatch.
Yeah, what I would do, like I'm just going to pause it and just explain what I would have done really fast. I would have resaturated my main gas, and I would have probably thrown down a second gas anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is, but I would have taken up to 2 gases at this point. And then my first 100 gas would go into layer. My second 50 gas would go into banding nest, and then I would just throw down double evo as I threw down banding nest. And then double gases going, by the time my evo chamber's finished, I would be ready to go into 1-1. And then when the layer finished, I would go into baneling speed. That's what I would do with my tech route. But then I would also have thrown down probably a 4th base and a macro hatch somewhere else. And then potentially even started at 5th base. This build expands very fast, and you take a lot of hatcheries really quickly, or else you'll have like 3,000 minerals and be like, oh shit, I can't spend my money.
So from 0 on gas, when you make your double evo right after the baneling nest, you'll have enough for 1-1.
It wouldn't be perfect. You mine 80 gas per evo chamber, so you would mine 160. Okay. So you would have enough. You would basically have 160 out of 250, but then you would get the 250 probably 10 seconds later. But the only reason why I wouldn't really care about it then, because number one is you don't want to forget that you're like there's a lot more shit going on at that point, so you don't want to forget like, oh fuck, I forgot to build my evo chamber, and now I'm like at 200 gas. And now I'm building my second evo chamber because I was trying to make it like perfectly timed. But so that's one reason why you wouldn't want to do it. The other reason why you wouldn't want to delay it then, because now we're already 3 base, fully saturated. We're going into layer, all that shit. It's not that big of a deal then because you're not actually sacrificing saturation to make the evo chambers.
Right.
But you are saturating saturation to make them when you do the double evo chamber build. So you don't want to make it wasting resources at that point. Yeah, that's all it is. Alright, so yeah, man.
You don't have any, like what we discussed before. You don't have any build that goes with Overlord speed.
Nope, I do not like Overlord speed early.
Okay, so what do you think about? What are your thoughts on drop heavy play?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's viable. It's just not how I like to play. It's more. It's honestly too fancy, and there's too much shit that your other races have that make it really easy to defend. Tank drop and overcharge are really easy to defend drops with, against drops for Zerg. Overcharge is amazing. That's like by far the best one because it hits the overlords too. But if I'm dropping like Zerglings into some guy's base and he's got a tank and a medevac and he's just blowing my Zerglings away, and Marines are just like randomly running around in different places, or if I'm dropping roaches or anything or banelings, I feel like it's such a big investment that it's so easy to be countered.
Understood. So what about in the mid or late game? Would you consider it
Yeah, no, that's
viable?
totally different. Late game, it could be very viable. But I honestly think Nidus is better than drop in late game.
Yeah, I've seen. Okay, so I've seen the whole Nidus thing. I've seen Nidus a lot, and try to pull a player apart from the Nidus. But I just wanted to like, because what's so interesting is I talked to Jake because part of Nocturnal Gamers, and he teaches me drop play and not being distracted and not floating and stuff like that. And then I'm learning from you as well, and it's like it's sort of polarizing or polar opposite perspectives on what to prioritize. And it's interesting to see that in the end, I feel like you just get more drones, but at the same time, you're more defensively oriented in your reactionary, where he plays more offensively and likes to be the action person, the person who's dictating the pace of the game.
Yeah.
What player do you find to be more consistent, like the person who's reactionary or the person who's dictating pace?
I think it's easier to learn how to play StarCraft and be comfortable with what you're doing if you're the defensive player. It's setting up attacks. There's a lot of minor things that can change that all the time. There's a shitload of situational, like, I don't want to say opportunities. That's the wrong word I'm looking for here. But there's a lot of just like, fuck, situations. I guess it's fine. There's a lot of situations that can change from one to the next to the next to the next. That all mean something different. Whereas if you play macro, it's kind of the same thing every time. It's very easy to pick up. All you got to do. It also trains you how to do your mechanics properly. Learning how to all in someone is not good in my opinion if that's all you base your game on, because that's kind of what it is. If you're being hyper aggressive with Zerg, you are going into an all in playstyle, because the only way you can transition out of it into a macro game is if you totally fuck your opponent. Like let's say you blow up his entire middle line with Banelings, but you only have like 12 drones yourself. Like you're kind of all in, but it paid off because you killed off his mineral line. But then the game could turn into like a macro game after that. But again, that's very situational. If you're playing macro defensive, it teaches you how to scout properly and how to react to different things and how to have a well-rounded foundation to your playstyle. And then that's why I always think that if you're learning how to play StarCraft, learning how to macro first is by far more important than learning how to all-in somebody. Because if you know how to all-in somebody, you have no transition. You're like a very 5-minute kind of a player, and that's it. Like if the game doesn't go your way in the first 5 minutes, if you only learned how to be an all-in player, you're gonna lose. But if you know how to be a macro player, and now you're going after you've learned how to be a macro player, then you want to add in some all-in styles into your playstyle. You could all-in somebody for the first 5 minutes of the game, and you haven't necessarily won, but now you are much better as a player at transitioning out of that into something else, because you actually have a good foundation on how to play the game.
But how do you encourage somebody to consistently macro and stay macro oriented and focused when in the reality, the majority of their experiences and the players that they're going up against and the community at large, for the most part, dictates a more all-in playstyle, to the point where we are discussing timing attacks and rationalizing the basis of our foundation off the fact that players are utilizing these timing attacks so often that we come up with obvious ratios that develop a meta. How do you encourage a player to sit there and say, you need to swallow this and still macro because you'll be better off for it, and have them understand that to a certain degree where we can actually encourage others to do the same thing, where it's not that the macro player is such a minority in the community?
Just to answer it really simply, if you learn how to macro, you will level up in leagues way faster than if you learn how to all in. You might, it's deceiving. You might feel like you're improving faster because your game's in quicker. If all you're doing is all-inning, because instead of playing 15-minute games, you're playing 5-minute games. Now, by the way, thank you for the sub for 4 months sideways. If you're playing like 5-minute games, obviously your game's going to be quicker. You're going to be going in and out, in and out, in and out really fast, and you might, hit that fucking like gold to platinum promotion faster. But you're going to hit a brick wall eventually with all-ins. It requires like you're talking about no regret, right? When you said Jake a second ago.
No, I did I say Jake?
I thought you said Jake.
No, Jig.
Okay. Anyways,
Yeah,
if
Simon Jig.
if
Yeah.
the person that's teaching you to be very aggressive,
Mhm.
that person, like you can be all in for so many times, and you can do so many fucking like the same all in so many times over and over and over, and you might win a couple times where it'll be like, oh look, my opponent, I've learned with this build, when my opponent builds a reactor before building a reaper or some shit like that, I have this window to fuck his SCVs so hard, and if he does that, and I see that, I'm already doing aggression anyways. It basically wins the game automatically, and now I don't have to worry about all these other factors that could be at play because the game's over and I just won. So I feel like that
Right.
caters more towards a beginner. But that's the thing, that will only take you so far. And when you start playing against people who actually know how to fucking scout you, and they know how predictable you become, especially if you're the kind of guy who only does all-ins, whenever people react to someone who is an all-inner and they prepare defensively, you will, generally speaking, you do not break them. Which is why I advocate so hard, learning how to be a macro player is way more important than learning how to be an all-inner. Because it's much harder. Like, the higher you get in leagues, the harder the game becomes. And if you don't know how to macro, because all you do is all in, you will never fucking win a game if you do not win off the all in. And it's going to be so fucking hard to win in an all in scenario if your opponent is blindly defending himself against all ins, and then like after he's already been blindly preparing for an all in since the beginning of the game, he then scouts you and confirms it and goes, oh yeah, yep. He's all-inning me again, and I've already been preparing for it because I knew it was coming, and now I'm extra prepared because now I know for sure I've confirmed it. And then you just like run into a brick wall and you die, and then you're like, well, fuck, I can't rank up anymore because this game's fucking hard. It's because you don't know how to macro.
Well, you know what? That made me proud to hear that speech, man. That was awesome. I just wanted to make sure that when I relay a lot of the fundamentals of StarCraft, that I use the same dialogue and the same sort of message that you utilize, and I just try to encourage others to stay focused on their macro and stay focused on just the idea of your drones being the most important piece of your army. And if you skip that, then you wind up just losing a little bit of what makes you a great StarCraft 2 player in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just to keep it simple, if you're getting bored of macroing, all in a few times. Like, have fun. It's a game. You should have fun with it. So if you want to all in, do some all ins and have fun with it. But if your idea of fun is as a player is to improve at the game, first work on your foundation, which is your macro and your mechanics, all that shit. That all comes in very well into learning how to play properly. Because I'll say this right now. I will say this right now. If this is my own statistic here to give you. If I were to do a bronze to grandmaster like series or some shit like that, and I were to just do one build every game, basically like one style, I'm either gonna all in every game or I'm gonna go macro every game. I feel like I would probably get out of that whole series. It would go faster if I was doing all ins. I would probably get to GM faster than I would in total. Like, we're talking total time invested here. I would get to GM faster as an all-inner than I would as a macro player, but I would struggle so much harder in like the diamond to GM range up in there as an all-inner than I would as a macro player. Like, my games would be twice or three times as long as a macro player, which is why I would get there slower. But I would have, honestly, probably a fucking much higher win rate as a macro player. It is so much easier to defend people who only all-in me. I love when people all-in me. Like, look at the cannon rush bullshit. I have fucking like 100% win rate against that. It's super easy if you know what you're doing. And also, because I'm a macro player, I have a very deep understanding about this game. I can all in as well. I could totally all in if I want to, but I understand. Not only am I like very well versed in like the first 5 minutes of the game, but I understand up to 10 minutes. I understand really well up to 15 minutes. I understand really well up to 30 minutes. I understand what I'm doing at an hour. I'm never sitting here going, what the fuck should I be doing right now? I have no idea. It's because I focus like the majority of my gameplay on macro, and I put myself into these situations so many times where I'm like, okay, I'm macroing, he's macroing. This is kind of, a first couple times it might be unique, but then after you've done it like 30 times or 50 times, you're like, all right, well, the Protoss right now, he's making a lot of stalkers. I played against it so many times. I've trial and errored all these different kinds of compositions that have sucked ass. Now I'm going to switch over to another one, and then let's say you're like, oh fuck, the new composition I tried this time of destroyed stalkers. Holy shit, it was so good. And then you have this like positive influence to do it again, and the next time you get in that situation, and you do it again, and you're like, wow, okay, this style actually fucking owns his style when the Protoss does this specifically. And you put yourself into that situation so many times where you have so much experience playing against like a lot of different range of builds that you just know what you're doing. Like you can just see what your opponent's making, what their tech looks like, all that stuff, and you know from trial and error before in your experience that you know this works or this doesn't work. So you just have a really good idea of what you should be doing all the time. That's honestly like macro StarCraft in my opinion. It's not just about like, did I keep my money? Did I spend my money? Like spending your money is nice. That's good. But understanding the game is honestly what's going to make you a better player. Because if you sit here, if you queue up for a game and you're like, I have no fucking idea what I'm going to do. Well, let's just see what happens. Like, then you're not actually understanding what's going on, and you're just kind of like rolling the dice blindly, being like, hope I win, you know?
Right. I do, man. That was a powerful message, man. Like, this is exactly why I wanted to get the coaching that I did, and it's just, and not even just from the coaching aspect, but just spending time with a great human being. So
thanks, man.
let's rewind the replay real quick, and I want you to just explain a lot of your decisions, breaking down your build order for this particular one.
Yeah.
And then let's just end it with an Archon game.
Okay. So on this one, I'm gonna have it on ×2 just to speed up a little bit, but it won't be too crazy.
17, 18, 17, pretty much.
Right? Pretty much, yeah. 17 hatch. I do 17 hatch, 17 pool. I don't go all the way up to 18 a lot of times because I like to have the pool out slightly faster in case my opponent were to go for like Reaper really early. Potentially like a proxy Reaper.
Understood. I'll start experimenting with that a little bit. I'll start experimenting with the 17 pool.
Because it like the big thing, the reason why you would go 18 pool or whatever is because you do not want to larva cap. That's the only thing that matters is larva capping. Because the trade-off would be you could get like maybe a bonus 5 minerals by going up to 18 pool, but you get a queen slightly faster if you go 17 pool, which can inject slightly faster, which gives you more larva slightly faster by like a couple seconds. And you could argue that those drones that are now in the larva inject later on are more bonus minerals later on, even though it's not like a cascading effect where you didn't get it earlier like you did with the first 18th drone, but now you're getting like 3 at once a minute from then, which is like eventually you're going to equal like to the same minerals. It's really very minor on those things. The only thing that matters is not larva capping your hatchery. And
we're breaking down a replay second by second, so minor adjustments are astute in this conversation. The next question would be your gas timing. Is it a 17 gas timing as well, or is it an 18 gas?
You can timing? You can either go 17, 17, 17, or you can go 17, 17, 18. It's really it's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
This one I think I went 17 hatch, 17 pool, 18 gas.
Understood. All right, so that makes more. All right, so I'll experiment with the 17, 17, 17 because that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, you can just keep it simple. It's again, right. Just don't larva cap. That's the only thing that's like the big deal here.
Right.
So I will saturate immediately on the gas because I'm already oversaturated anyways, so I don't actually go under saturation when the gas is done. Which is why I actually like taking a gas after pool. That's the main reason why I like doing that. And then I start double queens. I make 1 Zergling, and this Zergling is to be defensive. Just to, keep pressure off me.
So you only macro with 2 Zerglings, not 4?
It depends on the map. If it's a map where I need to kill rocks right away, I will make 4, sometimes even 6. But if it's a map like this, where it's not much is going on, I'll probably make 2, yeah. I'm pretty greedy. I'll make 2. You okay?
That is greedy as hell.
Yeah, it's pretty greedy.
Because it takes 4 lings to really lock down a Reaper. Just make it 2.
Yeah, the thing is though is I never chase the Reaper. If he leaves my hatchery and he runs off creep, I will never chase him. I only push him away and I waste his time. The whole reason is if I lose the 2 lings, it's okay. But all I'm doing is I'm wasting his time. And if he wants to chase my lings all day, I will just run my lings away from him the whole time. But if he like starts attacking my drones, I will probably pull one drone he's attacking to the opposite side of the mineral line, and I'll send my lings back at him. And when he runs away, I'll run away just again. I'll keep running away the whole time as much as possible, because you only have to waste about 20 seconds of time before your queen pops out. So it's not too like crazy.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna slow it down now to normal speed. So I started my first 2 queens.
Then you got the extra 2, right?
Yeah. I started my first 2 queens, but then after my first 2 queens were done, this is a big thing. If you can do this, you should do this. After I built my first 2 queens, I started my third. You see how my third's already like, 23 seconds in, and right now my other queens are like only 9 seconds in and 3 seconds in. I took my third base before I started queens 3 and 4. So I took my third around like 2:30.
Right.
So, but I didn't cut my drones for that though. Like I made my first 2 queens, I made 1 ling, and I made non-stop drones. And the second I had no larva, and I had like 150 minerals still in my bank, I just ran a drone to my third base, and I then like let my money go up to 300, and I took a third immediately. And you would normally do this if there's no Reaper currently in your face. But if there is a Reaper in your face, you would have to wait until your first 2 injects pop off, and then your first 2 queens can walk towards your third while you have more queens being built, and you can push the Reaper away from your third and then take your third then. So it's either like getting it right when I did, or maybe like 20 seconds later is the trade-off, if there's a Reaper there. And then as soon as I build the third, priority then, right after, is spending my larva, my initial larva I had, and then making the queens. And then these injects are popping and shit, and then it becomes, once you get to the point where you have like almost 2 fully saturated airlines, you'll be able to pump queens and drones non-stop. But early on, you definitely want to keep your larva from like under cap, basically. You do not want to cap your larva. That's never good to cap your larva, because basically you're just missing time to generate another larva that way.
Right.
And now at this point, all I'm doing is I'm just constantly spamming queens. And I'm already, now that I'm 16 drones in the natural, even though my third's not done yet, I've already rallied I've already rallied everything over there, and even sent 1 drone over there that was oversaturated. And now I'm still making drones. I make drones, seriously, until about 420. Yellow swag blaze it.
Alright. So, wow. And then, how long does it take from the Zerg cocoon to the Zergling being popped?
About 17 seconds.
About 17 seconds. So about 4:45, 4:50 is when the links start popping. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll be by the time the drop would come, like I said, you'll have about 8 queens and like 16 zerglings. And then if you like, let's say it goes really terrible and you're like, oh fuck, I just threw away my lings. You're still making more lings if you need to continue to defend the pressure. Because you have 3 hatchery production, which is really, really, really good. Like you see right now, I'm already making lings. My third base already has 17 drones, my natural has 16, and my main has 16. And at this point, this is when I was talking about this is when the transitions would be, I would be making lings right now, but my money is going to start building up. I'm not going to be able to spend my money as fast as I get it just by making zerglings. The only reason why I'm keeping it down right now is because I'm still pumping queens nonstop. But as soon as you get to like 12 queens in total, with this build specifically, you stop making queens then. You want to have like 8 to 9 roaming queens with this, and then 1 on each hatchery to inject. And then when I take future hatcheries from then, like if I take a 4th base and a 5th base and a macro hatch, you can just take queens out of your 9 and put them back on hatchery inject duty, because at that point you'll have a lot of lings to replace what the queens were initially, which is defense.
You see, now that was a good point. Good, thank you for bringing that up. So instead of making extra queens hatchery 4, 5, 6, 7, you're just taking it from 8, 9 out of the initial queens that you make. Okay.
Because by the time you'll have macro hatches, you're already going to have like probably 20 active creep tumors. You're going to have a fucking ton of creep tumors. And then you also will have still like 6 queens or so that still have like 100 energy or more per queen, so you can still have a lot of transfuse energy to fight off medevacs with and stuff like that. And then at that point you'll have, instead of having like 16 lings or 20 lings to accommodate like 10 queens, now you're going to have like 100 lings or like 150 lings to accommodate 6 queens. So you're just going to have way more ling emphasis on your army composition instead of queen. But the queens early allowed you to spend your larva on drones rather than zerglings.
So this is, now that I'm looking at this and we've gone over it, this is like your most used build.
Yeah, the two builds I just showed you are the two builds I use in ZvT almost all the time.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Like I've just seen you do this often.
Yeah.
Like so, wow. Okay, well, man, bye. Thank you.
Yeah, dude.
I will be breaking this down quite a few times today before I start executing it myself.
Yeah, no problem,
And today's lesson was extraordinary. I can't wait for the next one. I will be obviously donating again and setting it up so that we can run our last fiasco over Zerg.
Thanks, man. Also, I want to give you one more, just really quick recap here. Just keep in mind with this build, that right now we're looking at the build here with like a heavy queen, heavy 3 base saturation.
Right.
This build can transition to anything you want. You could go into layer Roach Ravager. You could go into layer Mutiling Baneling. You could go Roach Hydra, Viper. You could literally do fucking anything you want with this build. All this build is, initially, is it's Ling Queen with heavy saturation really fast, but then it becomes whatever you want.
Understood.
The other build, though, the double Evo build, that build is only Ling Bane. And it has, like, early game at least. And it has timings that are involved, but like you can add in, like, lurkers or mutas or whatever, but it is definitely, you need to be going Ling Bane. You cannot go, like, Roach Ravager with that.
Let me ask you a question. The build that, the second, we're talking about build number 2, the one we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
Would, as far as the Hellion push that I see so often, right? That
You're talking about, like, Hellbat Marine?
Yeah. For that particular build, I noticed that you tend to evil wall off a lot to protect a lot of your drones and stuff like that.
I wouldn't do that this game.
You would not do that this game?
No, because if I'm scouting my opponent and I see that he's going to go for a Hellion heavy style and he's going to like do what looks like Hellbats and Marines and Medivacs and stuff, you already have a lot of queens. That makes it really, really easy to defend that. And honestly, that would be one of the only exceptions where I would actually go over like 12 queens. I would actually pull all the queens off my main natural turn, and I would keep making more queens. I would just keep spamming queens until I knew I was okay. And in the meantime, while I'm doing that, I would be microing my queens and defending or whatever. But I would throw down, you have two options. I would either throw down a Banning Nest before I got layer. I would just throw that down immediately because I know I'm about to be hit by a timing. Or I would throw down a Roach Warren. And then I would try to like make like 10 roaches to deal with the Hellbats. And then have Lings flood the Marines after. Something like that.
Got you.
But yeah, that's like
when you usually do that, you don't actually tech into the roaches. You just make a handful just to defend.
Yeah, just to keep my economy safe early game.
Understood. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so, and then I guess after you say you hold the 5-minute attack, you don't immediately jump 6 gases. Would you suggest jumping 3 or 4?
I would. It would depend on the build. If I was gonna go Roach Ravager, I would. If I was gonna go for heavy Ling Bane and then go into like ultras eventually or something like that, instead of getting like heavy gas, I would probably double expand beyond what I have now, which would be 5 base.
Okay, but when you say double expand, you mean 1 macro hash rate in base?
No, I would actually take like this base, and then I would take like this base, and then I would probably take 2 macro hatches in like my main and my third. If I defended the attack. Like this is if he attacked me and threw his whole army away. If he didn't throw his army away, no, I would not do that. Because then his army could go back, regroup, and he could have a bigger push. And if I'm spending 1,200 minerals on hatcheries, and then he does another follow-up push, I've spent a lot of money on shit that's not going to help me in a timing that's going to hit me possibly 30 seconds from now. You know? Right. But if I kill his army, I now have map control because he just threw his army away. And there's nothing stopping me from taking more bases and macro hatches.
No wonder Avillo hates your ass. so yeah, man. Wow, this was great, man. I'm gonna go over this quite a few times, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun trying to experiment. And we'll definitely be barbecue a little bit later here. But before I go, let's definitely get that Archon game going.
Yeah, sounds good.
Exciting.
We can do that. Archon.
Oh man,
Gonna
that was a
be.
lot of info, but I really appreciated that. Two separate builds that we went over today.
Yeah, those builds honestly can you can use them every game if you're gonna play macro.
Well, I don't even know how to early pull. It's kind of embarrassing, but I just don't. I don't.
Um,
I don't
I
do it ever.
I think early pull against Terran is kind of suicidal because if they go heavy Reaper, I don't know how you win.
Right.
Like I think someone with good Reaper control, the only way I feel like you would win against someone who went heavy Reaper if you early pulled is if you had like an Overlord full of Banelings and they somehow decided to walk under it and go, oh fuck, all my Reapers blew up. Whoops. Like that's about it. Like that's the only way I see winning.
Oh god. I just personally I just don't ever do it because I've been taught to really defend even if you have to pull drones, and you know the only person I really watch and respect as far as their early pull shenanigans go is both Jake No Regret and Scarlet. I watch when I see them early pull somebody, I think it looks so one sided because they're so.
That's what I mean though. Like I'm gonna just I know I understand where you're coming from and I hear this kind of stuff a lot,
Right.
and those two players definitely are not the kind of players that like they only like Jake is kind of an exception, but they know how to transition out of a lot of situations, and it only looks as good as it does for them because they have a very well-rounded sense of like macro while multitasking, while attacking, while being able to like turn the game into something else beyond that. Whereas if you just are a guy who's trying to emulate that with no foundation of your gameplay, it's not going to ever look like that.
Right.
So it's kind of like deceiving.
Which is the conversation we had before about True,
Yeah.
where it's like True's lings are different from everyone else's lings.
It's because you have to. It's the early game. There's a bunch of like timings you have to hit if you're going for them, and if you don't hit them exactly when you need to, you've already fucked yourself over. And now even if it's like 10 seconds too late, you'll think to yourself, "Well, I was doing exactly what I saw True doing," and then you're like, "Well, I got shut down so fucking hard. I don't understand." It's because you missed your window. And True does that shit at a high level where he understands everything he needs to be doing, like very crisply. He knows all the timings. Whereas if you're trying to emulate what someone else does without understanding why he does it, you're not going to understand what windows you have to hit, which is why I think it's a bad way to learn.
Makes total sense. Oh shit, I went up to 18.
That's all good. Just make me whatever, man. I'll micro for you. I'll micro for you. Just if Frank's going out, dude. He knows what's going on.
Exactly. We've been down this road here before.
We've been here before, man.
So, what you think of the 3.7 upgrade? I personally like Alarak yelling at me consistently. It makes me feel good. Puts hair on my chest.
I actually really like Abathur. I think Abathur's sick.
Abathur, I'm gonna buy him today. Actually,
Yeah, he sounds cool.
I'm gonna give a couple of things out to just try and get people excited for the new the new announcers and whatnot. I think they're kind of funny.
Yeah. The other thing that's really good too is the separate MMR. It actually makes you'll appreciate it as a streamer, because if you actually want to try to do some Terran, some Protoss, some random, the game feels like, or your day feels like it goes by so much faster because it's a lot more variety now if you switch it up, rather than just grinding like Zerg games all day. So I really like that. It makes it feel like there's more of incentive to play the other races, because the only way before was if I play fucking Terran or Protoss, all I'm gonna do is tank my Zerg MMR. Because they're not as good. But now, with separate MMR, it's kind of cool. You have this goal to go for, where you're like, I want to see how I get my Terran and Protoss. I like it a lot. It's good. All right, I'm gonna take the 4-pack here, the Wolf pack.
You do that.
Yeah.
Where did the queen go? Oh.
Queen was on probe duty. There's a Adept coming down. Alright, dude, this is a good time for you to you know, be a boss ass guy with your spore crawler juking against the adept. Oh no, wait, never mind. The adept's actually cutting me off in the middle of the map. The fuck? You heard what I was saying.
I'm sure.
They're going for mass adepts. Is what they're gonna do.
Okay, well, I dropped an evo chamber because I actually was floating gas, so I'll get +1 attack.
All right. Yeah, right. They're probably gonna be attacking us in the next like 90 seconds with about like 8 adepts, and they're probably gonna flood it after that.
Dropping a Baneling Nest.
Oh, you wanna go banelings?
Well, you're the one microing, so I trust it.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy.
Look, man. What do you mean?
Banelings, you're crazy, man. No, normally I think roaches are easier to deal with. But you can go banelings if you want. We can try it.
It's totally going Banelings.
All right.
Okay, so I made as many drones as we're gonna get.
Okay. They're getting warp gates now.
Lings are on the way.
Their attack's probably gonna come in like 45 seconds. If they actually pressure. Oh, I killed an adept. Oh no, I didn't. They're moving out now. They're gonna be at our base in probably 20 seconds.
Well, the Baneling Nest is done. You have queens to mess around with as well to hold. I mean, we just literally went over this. So these are, I better be good at like literally getting this down.
All right, here they come. I got this. I got this, bro. He didn't go in. It's okay. Nice. A lot of the adepts just died. You can go back to droning if you want for now.
I already have.
Oh, damn. Your confidence in me, I like it.
No.
You're just like, Vibe's got it. I don't doubt it for a second.
I really didn't.
Nice, dude. I'm honestly gonna drop load their main and then try and maybe waste all their overcharges in their third. I think that can happen.
Understood.
Alright, so I got the mothership core out there. Oh yeah. Oh my god, I just killed so many probes. Oh. Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, baby. Yeah, we just killed like two whole mineral lines.
Wow.
And we also killed their main nexus. I think they're just gonna all in us now.
Well, I'm remaking the links.
I'm gonna make some Banes at home, because I actually think... they're not even trying to defend now. I think they're just going for it.
You know, you were totally right about this whole 5 base thing. This makes sense.
Yeah, well, you have way too much money at that point for just lings. You need way more larvae.
Yep.
Here they come. Okay, watch him phase into the blow up.
Oh, I did it.
He's got a lot though more. We gotta be careful about that one. The other army. Yeah, we did it. That macro was solid. Fuck. You want to play with me in my tournament games, dude? Fuck, I never seen macros good.
That was good. Thank you.
Good GG, man. Good shit.
GG.
GG.
Thank you, Vibe.
Yeah, man.
That was fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had a good time, too.
We will hang out sometime in the near future for sure. But I'm going to let you go so you can get back to work and do you. And I'm going to get back to work and do me and hang out and whatnot. And I just appreciate that you took the time to hang out, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that you were, interested in supporting the stream and all that stuff. Thank you, dude.
It's no problem, bro.
Love.
Real love, bro. So catch you guys. Thank you guys for the the Vibes community. By the way, I appreciate everybody who stopped by and hit the follow button. You guys are so awesome. Love each and every one of you, and I'll see you guys in chat. And until next time, peace out, guys.
Later, dude. All right.